Okay. Recording.
Okay. And then we have 2 questions for the... Okay, it's time. Okay, I'll let them in.
Okay.
So I'm just going to turn all their cameras and mics off, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, turn your cameras on.
Wait, no, it's not.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We're so awkward.
Okay, so we'll wait, we'll give it another minute and see if anyone else wants to join. But do you guys want to do short introductions?
No.
Yeah, we're gonna start with Colby.
Yes.
Let's start with you, Lita.
No, we're going in order. It goes you, then me.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Colby Ohm, and I'm the Awards and Recognition Chair. Anyone else?
Lita.
I'm Lita, and I'm the District Convention Chair.
Dude, is it Natalie next?
Oh, my name.
Or do you go? I think we're doing it in order, right?
My name is Natalie, and I'm the Kiwanis Family Foundation Chair.
Yeah, my name is Dylan Karkanen. I'm the Membership Development and Education Chair.
My name's Elise, and I'm the Technology Chair.
Cool.
Wait, shoot, I muted Colby. Okay, so should we start with the questions from the Google form?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. So the first one is, what is the main difference between all the CNH KIWIN'S levels in terms of workload and amount of demand from the board? Anybody want to take that one?
I guess I can kind of talk about it. So I don't know if they mean like the levels just within the board. I'm assuming they mean like all the way throughout
I
it.
mean,
But
club division.
like club all the way, yeah, okay. Because like I was actually like president of my club for a little bit, but I would say that any of like the leadership positions you take are gonna have their own respective work, I guess you could say. Like the president of a single club probably has like similar like style of work or like amount of work, I guess, to someone on the board. I would say we do have like a little bit more pressure or like work that needs to be done for like the entire district. And then I know that LTGs are overseeing like multiple clubs simultaneously. So I would say that they are probably up there with like the people that get the most work. So I mean, a lot of it though is kind of like, because although we do have assignments that we go through for A board at least, a lot of it is like kind of what you want to do with your position and how you want to improve KIWIN. So, you know, if you want to like put in more effort and more work, then you can definitely do that.
Yes, Brandon.
I'd say that the divisional level for sure had less work for me out of the positions I've had, and then next was probably club board. It has quite a bit of work for us, and it was a lot of more direct work, like planning events. Obviously, it's a different kind of workload than being on district board, but then district board definitely has the most work. Like it's not as direct as club or divisional work. Like you're not directly influencing a club or a division in their events. You just give suggestions kind of as a board member. That's what it feels like. It feels like you're just trying to influence clubs and divisions to do a certain thing, but it's definitely more work.
You kind of have to be your own
point.
boss.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's different that like I was a vice president. I was like always being told what to do. That's not the case anymore. It's kind of like I know the most about my position. I know more about what I'm supposed to be doing than like the district governor. So it's kind of like being given assignments and then figuring out the best way to complete them on your own.
Yeah, it's not like club board where the president tells you what to do really, because like Emma didn't really tell, because it's not really her position. So for us, it's being your own boss. And
yeah, that's a good point.
Ryan.
right.
So if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. If you guys have like questions just like about A board in general or about a specific position, Does anyone have any questions about or does someone want to talk about the application process? Okay, I can talk about the application
Because
process.
I can't really talk about the application, but mine was a little bit different from you guys. But
So there's a general application that you have to fill out, and then you have to fill out position-specific questions. I know that for me, I attached supplements, so like I did a mock convention schedule, stuff like that. It really depends on like what you're applying for, but I will say that I think my application was like very, very long. I don't. Yeah.
So it's like basically there's written questions, like basic ones in the beginning that everyone has to fill out for any appointed board applicants, and then there's position specific questions after that, which are like a little bit longer paragraph or even essay format, and then after that it's up to you to include whatever supplements you want. So for me and Lita, and I think Colby too, it was pretty supplement heavy. Like I included a lot of videos to show what kind of work I did and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like the supplement section is kind of like where you like sort of like shine from the rest of the group, and it really shows like your personal skills and like what you can bring to the table. So for like awards and rec chair, I like made my own little mini awards manual, and why that was so good for me was because I had a background in graphic design, so I was able to design my entire awards manual, just like a made up theme for myself, and submit that, and they were able to see that like I was already kind of thinking about what I'm gonna do, like possible award ideas I was thinking of, and I just feel like if you're applying for appointed board, you really have to take that section to like kind of shine from the rest. Oh, we have a question from Brandon.
do you have a
Elise,
question?
you want to take this one?
Okay, it says, is there a specific criteria for photos that you take if you're a historian? Example,
So,
pixel size.
Actually not really. It's kind of up to you and what you're using the photos for. That's all I can really think of. The only time that I'd have a specific criteria is if you're like submitting it for an ARF, and then your photos that you take need to like display activities at an event or highlight an event that your club had. But for the district level, for being tech chair, it's like the same thing about being your own boss. It's just whatever you want to use the photos for. So I didn't keep like a certain requirement in mind other than to like highlight members' experiences in the photos. No problem.
Ooh.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Lita, do you still have questions from the Q&A? Or the
We have the one, and then we have one other one that's not a serious question.
I think you should still ask it.
Okay. The other question was, is a hot dog a sandwich? I say no.
What's our
No.
consensus?
I say no. It's its own thing.
I'm gonna have to say yes.
I'm saying yes.
Because I mean, it's like a sandwich is like 2 pieces of bread with like stuff in between. Is that not what a hot dog is?
Exactly.
Like 2 pieces of bread with stuff in between it.
And cereal isn't a soup because a soup is like usually hot and like cooked together. It's not just like 2 things thrown together.
Have you guys ever played that game where you have to classify every food as either a sandwich or a salad?
Oh, I've heard about that.
I think you've actually brought it up before, Lita.
Serena, I agree with Serena because she says hot dog is technically 1 piece of bread.
Yeah. I think that people would then argue though that
sandwich,
I think like but you can still have like lettuce wrap sandwiches though, you know, like that's like I guess we're not going with bread anymore, but like it's just like something in between 2 things surrounding it, or like something surrounding it, you know, that's on both the top and bottom.
Like if you're gonna make a sandwich with 1 piece of bread, you cut that piece in half and then it becomes 2 pieces.
Yeah,
no, I had it. I had a
just hold it.
It was just a piece of bread with filling on top.
It's not a sandwich then.
Yes, it is.
It's like a piece
So
of
you're saying
toast.
like hot dogs are in like a state of superposition between a hot dog and a sandwich until you see like the other side of the bread. So they're both a sandwich and not a sandwich simultaneously until you see whether or not it's cut or not.
Okay, heating up
There's the answer.
cereal. Then that makes a cereal like an oatmeal. But then is oatmeal a soup?
But isn't cereal its own classification?
Oh, we got a question.
Angela asked us a good question.
Angela has a better question.
Angela, who do you think you are?
So the interview process was over messenger video call. Wait, no, just a regular call. We didn't have to show our video. And it was just the executive board at the time asking us specific questions about our application, and then other more general questions like, I can't do you guys remember some of it?
Oh yeah, okay. My interview was terrible. Like to this day, I'm usually like a fairly confident person, but like I knew 3 out of the 4 execs like beforehand, and that made it so much worse for me. And like I was shaking and stuttering and like couldn't get an answer out the entire time. And I remember one of the questions they asked me was it was position specific, and it was what do you do if it's gov ball and the DJ isn't there? And I was like, I don't know, I just plug in my computer and throw something on. And like, but like, because they didn't have like a specific answer in mind, but they were kind of just looking for like me to have some kind of plan, like to be able to adapt to situations, because that's really important for my position. So the best advice I can give is like, don't say I don't know. Like, don't. Like, that's no. You figure something out.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you can go ahead, Kobe, if you want.
Oh, you can go. It's fine.
Okay. So for mine, just like Lita, like they'll ask you probably something based around the position you're going for, and you definitely want to come in with like some sort of like creative ideas that you've had in mind to start off with, because a lot of the times the questions are going to be either about your experience or about a challenging situation that you may have to like approach. So not only should you have maybe some experience with like leadership or just some experience in like creating ideas or just like being creative in general, you should also have experience in being able to like adapt and improvise when like challenges arise, or just having like good ideas in general that are easy and efficient to implement.
Some of the questions could be follow-up from your application as well. So I know that sometimes they'll ask for like for future ideas that you have for the term, and then a lot of times in the interview they'll ask you about your idea and to elaborate on it, just to see what you have in mind and get more details about it.
I would say that for any position on A board, it's really, really important to know how to delegate, because each one of us oversees at least one committee, and the executive board wants to see that you're not going to take on this, because it is a pretty big responsibility. They want to see that it's not just you, and that you're going to be able to like kind of let go of the reins a little bit and trust other people to do the work, but make sure that they get it done. So definitely delegating is a big part of any A board position.
And I guess like someone asked another question, like what are some of the annoying things to expect from A board? I guess that could actually classify as one of them, because some people like have trouble with like letting go, like, you know, full control and like responsibility and like putting that trust in others. And so I guess if you're that type of person, it could be annoying for you to like have to give that up, because you're going to need help. There's going to be things that you're going to have to delegate or just like cooperate with other people to get done. So I guess if that like you're that type of person, you should like get used to delegating and like, you know, being able to trust people. But also, you know, just like Lito was saying, like you gotta still be that leader though, because some people will still like fall off or like forget. So you can be that just like constant reminder for them.
And on the flip side of that though, like sometimes you'll tell people to do stuff and they won't do it. Like, and it's not because they like purposely aren't doing it. It's usually because like they have other stuff going on, so they don't necessarily make your stuff first priority. And that can be a bit annoying. Like I know that when we were doing the DCON script, certain people didn't get me their committee speeches, and I literally like I almost lost it. I was just like, okay, if you don't get them in me Friday, like none of you are getting to speak about your committees.
I hear you call out me, Colby.
Get there. Okay, but another thing is that like we're all from different parts of California, so like it's not easy to just go to school the next day and ask someone face to face about what's happening next. You kind of have to make that effort to talk to people or communicate, and just sometimes like communication is really hard for some people. So just like the fact that like we only see each other in person like 4 times out of the entire term, so it's just you have to be able to like communicate well and don't be afraid to ask people questions.
Something that's not necessarily annoying, but it's just something that you have to keep in mind because it can like cause some bumps in the road, is that you have to, before you release something like a resource or a graphic or a video, you have to go through the advisors and have them approve it first. So if you like say that you want to release something on a Friday, you can't just finish it Friday morning and then expect to release it. You have to like finish it maybe on Wednesday or even Tuesday so that you can email it out to your advisors and the district administrators so they're able to approve it before you release it, because their advice is actually really helpful and it's good to have other perspectives on your work. So it's just something you have to keep in mind whenever you like have a new idea. You can't just do it like the night before and expect for it to get approved in time.
And on that note, like, so I would plan and like, I'd be like, okay, like I'll get this resource by this time and then I'll send it in to get it approved. But things that I didn't account for were like other people not getting me the correct information. So like advisors wouldn't get back to me. And then like in 2 days, I'd be like, okay, Angela, Elise, like I need this done like right now. And like, it's because it's not like their fault. It's not really my fault. But, like I should have planned for like more of a buffer, because sometimes advisors are not super quick about getting back to you. But it's just kind of like accounting for everything, and you pick it up like as the term goes along, but yeah.
All right, so someone asked what's the most challenging thing that we faced throughout our term. So I don't know if anyone has anything that stands out, or like we want to go one by one, or
We can go one by one. Colby, you want to start?
Oh,
I think you should start.
Okay. Challenging. I would say, well, like I was scared of working on the workshop matrix for a really long time because it's like so complicated. And then one day I just sat down and like knocked it out. But so I guess like that, like just kind of the idea of something being hard kind of made me scared to do it. But maybe the most challenging thing was probably like one of the advisors kept asking me for like a certain thing, and I kept sending it to him, and he was like, no, I want this like plus all the other information, and I just didn't understand what he was asking me. So I had to send him, like we went back and forth like this for like a long time, and I was like, okay, can you just like explicitly tell me what you want? And then he was like I feel like it was that like communicating with this one advisor was like painful for me every single time I had to do it. That was the most challenging.
okay.
I thought for sure you were gonna say like DCON being canceled for the challenge.
Well, that wasn't challenging. That was just sad. But like,
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
What do you mean we're at DCON?
Sure, this is DCON. Am I going next?
I can go.
Okay.
I think the hardest part for me throughout, or the most challenging part for me this term was doing all the awards manuals. I don't know if everyone's gone through them, but like most of them, or I divided them into 3 sections just to make it easier for myself. But if you look at them, they're not like short, and they're all designed by me. And I don't know, I just at the beginning I'm like, oh, I can do this all by myself. Like this is my job. Like this is, and like I didn't want to delegate and stuff like that. But I got to section 2, and section 2 is like 75 plus pages, I think. And I had to graphically design all of them, add text, and add all the rubrics and information in. And that just got so overwhelming at one point that I just gave up at one point, and then the next day I picked it back up. So just yeah, it was definitely a low.
Okay, I guess I can talk about mine. So I would say my most challenging thing was actually just getting into my position, because I actually came in partway into the term. So I was going in with like a group of people I hadn't really met or talked to a lot, and I was just kind of like thrown into the swing of things, and like I was like introduced to like what I had to do, but like I didn't really know what I had to do until I just like kind of jumped in and started doing it. So I guess that was the most challenging thing, but you have like your like everyone on the board and like all these administrators, advisors, your own friends like to help you out with things. So it got better as I just continued to work, and it's just about perseverance. Like you realize like what's kind of faltering or like what you need to do better, and you just kind of improve on it throughout the term.
I could go next, or do you want to go? It looks like you're trying to talk.
But it's fine. You can go.
For me, I think it was coming up with resources, because they usually, the Kiwanis, the KFAM role, just basically have this one general goal to just strengthen KFAM relations. They don't have like specific things they want you to do. So I think it takes a lot of like creativity to come up with resources, and yeah.
For me, I'd say one of the toughest thing was prioritizing what things that I want to make that are most important to me, because there's a ton of ideas that you have, and a ton of different people asking me for different resources and videos that they wanted created. So I can't, it's hard to do all those things in a certain amount of time. So you have to prioritize which one is most important. And I don't know, sometimes it's just hard to choose. And I had some regrets with what things I did choose to make and the ones that I didn't, because there were just a lot of tasks being asked at one time. But it's just about learning to prioritize more efficiently and time management, stuff like that.
So we actually have a couple questions, so we'll start from the top.
Yeah.
The question is, does the executive board often push their duties off on you? I would say absolutely not. I like honestly though, like to the point that like I wish they did a little bit just so I knew what was going on a little more. That definitely got way better throughout the term, but like yeah, absolutely not. They did not give up, like no, there was nothing that was supposed to be done by an exec member that we did.
Yeah, I'd say almost even the opposite, where our roles are all really separate because we're all dealing with different aspects of it. So sometimes we wouldn't like know what they were even doing until it was released. But that was only in the beginning, and then it got more communication, as Lita was saying. But our roles just don't really overlap like that. We have totally different aspects.
So the next question is, was it difficult to decide whether to apply for appointed board if you already had a position on club board? So Dylan, you probably have the most experience with this.
Yeah, so I was president of my club when I was applying for the position, and so I guess it depends on like what you really want to do. Like if you really want to just like oversee your club and like that's your thing and you wanted to be like a president of a club at your school, I would like go for that. So I think like the decision comes down to like if you want to have like a higher up leadership position that you're gonna have, I guess, more responsibility to deal with, and like, you know, not specific tasks that you have to deal with that like come at you day to day, and it's more just like you're dealing with it in the long term. So I had to look as to whether or not I wanted to be president of my club at my school, or whether I wanted to be MD&E chair and, you know, like oversee like all the clubs and them like accumulating members or like building membership and things like that. And so I don't know, I like being in leadership roles, and I thought I could fill the spot fairly well, so that's why I applied.
For the rest of us, I don't know if I can speak for everyone, but I know for me and Elise, like we had to decide if we were running for a club board before deciding to run for what's it called, appointed board. So like we decided not to run for club board because we wanted to pursue appointed board, and that was just like taking a leap of faith. Like we couldn't like if we lost an appointed board, we couldn't just go back. So I think it's just for a lot of us, we had a lot of confidence in our abilities and as leaders, and what we could bring to the table, especially for these position specific jobs. Like I know I could do well in the award section, and I know Elise could do well in technology section. So I just think that like if you're on the same track as we are, you gotta have that confidence going in.
Yeah, for me, I didn't, like Colby and Elise, I didn't run for a club position so that I could run for an appointed position because I felt like I'd be making a bigger difference. Like I had already done club board, like I felt like I'd be making a bigger impact on a district level. And I also realized, or I recognized what a great opportunity district board was and how unique it is. So I wanted to take advantage of that.
They're
Okay.
pretty different, sorry, club and district board. So it's just based off of what you like. It was like what I was saying about club board having a more direct influence over a specific club, and you get to actually make events and interact with members directly more often. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of hard for Colby and I to like give up having influence over our home club. We've like struggled with that this year, like not being on club board sometimes, not being able to like come up with events with them or being able to go to events all the time. But they're just totally different. So I like don't regret being on a appointed board at all, but it's just a different experience than club board.
All right. So our next question is, can you guys go into some detail about what you made your committees do? So it's really very, like, I think that they'll tell you that it's like super different by committee. I headed 7 committees, but only one of them was open to members. So like, for example, physical arrangements, which Elise was also on, they were in charge of the decorations for DCON. So they were going to make all of the centerpieces and the wall art and the photo booth stuff. I know that some of my other committees, like agenda and script, which Elise and Colby were both on, we had to write the DCON script. And then, yeah, so it's really like, it depends on what the committee is, but it's really just like to help with overflow work.
Yeah, so for a tech committee, Angela and I both manage it together. So it's a tech chair and a bulletin editor position to run the committee. And Jalen and Steven were actually both members of the committee. So we just divide the committee basically into different like roles. Like Jalen, for example, was part of the graphic side of the committee, while Steven focused on videography and video editing. So just any events that we weren't at, for example, like I was at Ball Rally North, so I didn't record, but I had Steven record for me. Or we also had our graphics team make filters on Snapchat or reminder graphics, just things like that, extra little things that we don't really have time for.
For my committee, I'm in charge of awards and rec committee. And what I basically had them do was that it was very helpful to have people within my committee because they really helped with like outside opinions, and it wasn't just me thinking about who's going to get this or who's going to get that. And one of my things I do is the blanks of the month. So that's like club, officer, member. And what was really helpful is that I would get like 20 submissions, but like my awards and rec committee would kind of help me pick who was the best option to go with for that month, or and just really decide, like instead of just me thinking like about 20 people, it was a bunch of people like helping me decide between it. And it's just like it's better because it's like making you big decisions and you're just not alone. Yeah.
For my committee, we mostly reviewed the KRFs and split the KRFs and decided which secretaries to contact each month, and then split among our committee members. So each member had like a few secretaries to contact, and we also worked on the manual together.
So for MD&E, the committee is the MD&E committee. And so basically I treated mine like, I would describe it kind of like a Socratic seminar almost. Like I basically just like had everyone brainstorm for things. So, like if I was trying to like solve an issue or just like decide on something, or if we were just trying to like notice where like problems are in terms of like membership, that I would just like ask them for ideas, and we would just kind of like throw ideas back and forth, or I would just like say my ideas and get their feedback on it. So it was mainly kind of like Colby's, just like served as like a group, so you're just like not alone in your own thoughts and you can kind of come to a consensus together. Yeah.
All right, so next question is, what are some good planning strategies you guys have developed throughout this term?
Um,
Our big flow chart with Mr. Dimsdale. So whenever we went to district board meetings, when we all meet up at a hotel, the assistant district administrator, Mr. Dimsdale, he like really enforced this idea of like, he had this big piece of butcher paper and he made us all go up and like, it was like a calendar, like you did sectioned off per month and you had to go write like your idea for your position that would help increase membership because that was our goal this term. So then we like had that picture of the flow chart like constantly in the group chat, and I don't know, it's just like looming over us like a reminder of what we had promised Mr. Dimsdale we would do. So that was one of our board's planning strategies in general.
Promise.
Don't at me.
yeah, I would say a good planning strategy is like if something's like fairly important, is like making it like an obligation. So how Elise was describing it, like kind of looming over you. So I planned to always have a call with my committee at least once every month. Like we planned it around the same time every month. So like if there was something to do, like you knew that, or at least I knew, and like my committee knew that like we were going to talk about it, we're going to go over it like at that next meeting. So you know that you had like in between that time frame to kind of like do it, and like, or if we had like a specific week planned out, we knew exactly when that week was going to happen, when we needed like videos or just information to be submitted. So yeah.
I think just like is always simple, just having your own like personal calendar, like not for like your life, but like separate from just for KIWIN'S. Because like for awards and rec committee, we had like forms due every month from club presidents or treasurers and stuff like that, and they were always due at the exact same time. And what we would have to do, what I'd have to do is like have a meeting with my committee, and those are basically at the exact same times every single month. And then so we were able to nominate people, or from the nominations we were able to select people that we would have as our blanks of the month, and we'd post those results at the exact same time every single month. And I just think that like, okay, just having like a personal like calendar for that stuff will just keep you on track, because like things like that you can't really just like, oh, I'm gonna do it next week, because like if you're deciding something for January blanks of the month, you can't just wait till like March. Like
All right.
Oh my God, I'm
Yeah, sorry.
sorry.
No, go for it.
The importance of with planning is communicating with the other board members to see what they have planned, because especially with social media, like we don't want to release too many things at one time, and sometimes we didn't like know who wanted to release what at what time. So it's important to communicate with the other board members to make sure that you're not overlapping days or releasing too much at one time. So you can kind of schedule your own position based off of other people and their own goals as well.
Okay. So the next question is, what is it like interviewing candidates for committees?
ooh.
It was hard for me because like I felt bad. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
put everyone on my committee, but yeah, I knew that I needed like I needed like people with a good work ethic, and I needed them to be artistic. And I also diversified, so I picked certain people who had really strong digital art, and I picked people who had really strong physical art, and that's kind of how I picked my committee.
For me, I got a lot of applicants, and it was just like Lita said, it was just hard not being able to just choose everyone. But it was kind of like strategic for my sense, because I picked a diverse group of people, like from multiple divisions, so that I wouldn't just have only jet people or just only turquoise people. Like I had almost one member from every division, and it was just very helpful because I was able to get like a better perspective throughout the term when I would get comments and suggestions from people within my committee that were from a division that I haven't been associated with when I was just on club board.
Especially for my position for a tech committee, it was important to have a diverse group of people on the committee from different divisions. So, for example, we really needed people from the northern divisions because they do have separate events. So it was really helpful to have members from the north to be able to film and make content for the northern divisions in their events.
For me, the hardest, I think it was really hard getting in contact with a lot of applicants because for some reason, a lot of my applicants didn't want to respond back. So yeah, that was the hardest part.
Yeah.
I actually didn't interview the people for my committee. I came in and I had my committee, and so I'm fortunate enough though that they were a great committee though, so that was really good, and I'm glad that those are the people that were with me. But if I were to have interviewed and like picked people for like membership development committee, I would definitely pick people who are goal oriented because membership development is kind of difficult because you have to look on the long term. Like there isn't anything you can do in the now that'll instantaneously like change people's thoughts about membership or like change what's available for membership and things like that. So you need to pick people who are okay with like things happening in the future and like developing their ideas slowly over time and like collaborating in that sense.
Another thing that we considered when we were interviewing people was who had the most potential for growth into other board positions and possibly district positions in the future. So we wanted people on the committee that would really utilize the experience and take the opportunity to grow their own skills and move on to higher positions in the future.
All right, so our next question is what is one personal weakness you have or had, and how did you overcome it?
Ooh.
I can start. I would say mine is like definitely delegating. Like I'm one of those people in school that like hates group projects because like you want to do it your way because your way is gonna be like the way that you like it or maybe the way that is gonna get you the highest score. So when you're forced to like give other people a job or like have other people contribute, it's hard to like restrain yourself, I guess, from wanting to like butt in your opinion. But I would say like this, like being on A board is a little bit different because you have your committee and you guys are more collaborating on like an idea together. So you can like more share your opinions together, but you still have to do that delegating part because it's going to be very difficult if you just take on everything by yourself. So it's a good idea to ask other D board members for help or to ask your committee for help. And you just have to, I mean, since you like go through all the trainings with these people, and if you're an A board, you've interviewed these people, so you know who they are fairly well, and then like you can put your trust into them. So you should work on like giving up, or I had to work on like giving up that responsibility to them and letting them complete their work.
Anybody else want to say anything about that, Colby?
I'm the only one with flaws here. Okay.
I would say my biggest flaw this term was time management. I didn't realize how much like, oh my God, Colby, Jason.
No, just because like everything you guys are saying is just like I'm like, wait, that's another thing that I did bad. Like,
Especially in my position, like I have to ask other board members and other people to submit videos of themselves, and then I have to edit with those videos. So then like I wouldn't account for the time that it takes them to submit the videos, and then the time in between where like I haven't gotten video submissions by the due date, so I have to like ask them again. So then that's like more days to wait, and then I also have to take into account like the advisors and sending in for approval. But then the deadline's like still waiting, so it was just like you really have to start beforehand, way before you originally planned, because there's just a lot of hiccups in the way, especially when you're working with some like people that aren't you, when it's not just you.
Mine's kind of a weird one. So like I usually handle stress in a very like I grab a rock star and I just get all my work done. But that's like a very individualistic approach. And so I got sick at like literally every board meeting and fall rally except for May board, I think. And it didn't occur to me until winter board when Alexandra's like, oh, it's stress. Like, yeah. So my thing was like, when I'm not able to just like get all my work done, I had to learn how to like manage my stress so that I wasn't like literally like violently ill at every board meeting.
Damn.
Do you want to go or?
Anyone have anything else?
I think I had a lot of weakness, but like one that struck me like that stand out the most was coming up with resources, because it's not like, oh, you must come up with these resources. It's mostly based on yourself, and I kind of overcame it by having meetings with my community members, because they have a lot of great ideas, so they really like contribute a lot.
Obi, I'm waiting.
We're waiting. Oh my god.
I was trying to pretend like I was present. Okay. Probably the hardest thing, or what was it like? My weakness is
like that you had to overcome, yeah.
I don't know if I overcame it.
That's okay. Just
But
work
like
on
I
it.
think it's the same thing as Dylan, just delegating tasks. Because like I said earlier, like one of the hardest parts for me throughout term was creating the awards manual, just because it was so much work. And like I don't know why, but I was just like, I'm gonna do this by myself. And like I didn't have I was originally gonna have my committee help me, and then I just didn't, and then it just became my problem, and then deadlines were approaching, and it just became more stressful just because like I couldn't delegate. Like it I mean, it's a really big part of my position, and I just thought I should probably be responsible for it. But like then again, I did have a whole committee designed to help me. So just yeah, I guess just letting go and like letting other people help you.
All right.
Yeah.
So the next question is, has there ever been a breakdown during your term? I'm assuming, like, have you ever had a breakdown? I can
Like
take
a
this
mental
one
breakdown.
first. I like lost it at summer board. I was so sick, and like I was so upset with certain people, because like basically we ran out of time to do this presentation the night before because of certain individuals, and then that put the entire next day behind. So like all of my presentations were getting cut short, and like I was super sick too, and I was just over it. Like nobody was listening. I couldn't go to Summer Olympics. Like I was in the hotel room. My RA had to go get me Pedialyte and like was forcing me to drink Pedialyte. It was just not a great experience. Like, and yeah, that was just not my favorite experience. But like looking back, like did I need to be that dramatic? No. Did I have a justified reason to be upset? Absolutely. But like was there a better way to handle it? Yes.
I would say mine was also at board meetings, because before the board meetings, we'd have video ideas planned. Like, like nearly every committee or position would be like asking me, like, okay, we need to do this video now. And then they just say, okay, we'll film it at like summer board or winter board or something. And then winter board would come and there was no filming time on the schedule. I was like, how do you guys expect me to film these videos with you guys if there's not time on the schedule to do it? So that was kind of terrible, but we got through it through communication.
I think I had like a breakdown fairly recently, like in the like last like month and a half or something, because like you get to a certain point where you're like kind of just over it, even though like you love KIWIN'S and like that, and then you're just over it just because you've been working really hard.
Did we lose Colby?
What'd you say?
He actually froze.
And at one point I had wait, am I frozen?
No, you're back.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay, wait, what part did you guys hear?
Like within the last month, something.
Oh, okay. So basically, you guys didn't hear the whole thing I said.
But then after all this work,
Yeah, but then after all that work, like you just get a little bit tired and burnt out. And like a month and a half ago, like I was dealing or maybe even before then, I don't really remember, but I was dealing with all the judges for the DCON awards, and judges aren't like it's not just us. It's KIWIN'S, it's Circle K members, it's some people from district board. So like it's just at one point I was like texting and emailing 45 different people at one time, and it just got so overwhelming because like not everyone is like, oh, I'll get this done tonight. There were some people that were like, oh, like we're finishing it the day I gave it to them. But then there were some people that would just be like, I didn't get your email. And then I'd read the email to them out loud and they'd be like, yes, that's correct. So then I'd be like, so did you receive the email? And they'd be like, no. And then there are also the advisors, or not the advisors, but the people that like just didn't want to do it even though they signed up to do it. And they're just like, the day after I needed it, they told me, sorry, I couldn't do it. I think you need to find a new judge. So like after talking, like a couple people did that, talking to 45 different people, it's just like frustrating because, and then people work on your people skills is all I can say.
Yeah, for sure.
Juliana asked, how can you manage school, and she said like homework and events with your position and personal lives?
So I never had like, so like this kind of like actually relates to like the previous question, like with having like mental breakdowns or just like a lot of stress. I never had one personally, but I think that a lot of it comes from the fact that like your job isn't KIWIN'S, and like, you know, you're still like a teenager in high school, so you still have, you know, like your family life, your personal life, your school life. Maybe you do have like another job, so you have like all these other things that you need to manage in addition to KIWIN'S. So about like how to manage that, I mean, a lot of it comes down to like, and I know it's like super difficult, but I guess like not procrastinating too much and like getting things done in their respective categories. Because once you start like blending those categories together and making them too gray, that's when you start to like bring stress over like in between them, if that makes sense. So, you know, you should be managing your school stuff at school or have like an allotted time at home to do your homework. You should be doing like your own personal stuff during like an allotted time, and then maybe have like an allotted time to do your KIWIN stuff. Because if you're just like mixing it all together, it's going to get too jumbled up and something's going to fall off, and that's going to lead to like building up of a lot of stress.
I think that's something that was nice, like for us, well, I can't really speak for everyone, but was that like since we're on a appointed board, which is on the district level, like all of our assignments or tasks, like we're just due like day by day, or you have to do this by tomorrow. Like it was kind of just like, okay, you had a plan for long-term events and long-term plans, and it wasn't as like just short little events that you do on club board. So I think that was very helpful because like school obviously will take up a lot of your time, and you can do your homework and do your extracurriculars, but like what was helpful was that like KIWIN'S being like a long process. I didn't have to like every night, I wasn't just like, oh my god, KIWIN'S, like I was like on a club board. So
it like goes back to the thing about being your own boss. It just depends on like what you have going on. You can choose to prioritize things and to do or to not do things depending on what you have going on at that time. There's not someone like, you know, on your back like, oh, you need this tonight. It's not like that. It's up to you to decide what you want.
So like for me, I had like I've always kind of had a lot going on. Like this year, like I had KIWIN'S. I was also president of another club. I had a job. I had a couple AP classes, stuff like that. And like Elise said, the best thing that you can do is prioritize. So I read this thing once where it was like you manage stuff, like you envision all the things you have to do as like you're juggling, and some of the balls are glass and some of them are plastic, so it's kind of like know which ones to drop, but it's not like one is like KIWIN'S, like it's like one is DCON script. Well, that was obviously glass because that was super important. I couldn't like not do that. But there was, okay, so the entire time I was in physics, I never did all my homework until the very night before the test because it was all due the night before the test. And I literally spend like 12 hours doing an entire unit of physics and then go in and take the test and like ace the test. But like it was really stressful because like I like was putting off like weeks and weeks of work, but like it's kind of it was what I had to do to get everything else done because that was like the last due date. That was where I had the most slack.
And just like to mention something, sometimes like you do have to like drop that rubber ball, like for example, like the physics stuff. But sometimes that rubber ball is something you can delegate, like we were talking about before. So like if it's something that you can pass on to someone else, like obviously everyone is busy, so you should like ask them like, hey, is it possible for you to be able to like do this part for me or do this for me? So like there's a chance that you can actually pass on some of your like stress or just like a little bit of that burden onto someone else to have them like help you with it.
Anybody else want to say anything? Okay. So, next question. What would you tell your younger self about your position now? Well, okay. So, I would definitely tell little me that it's not nearly as bad as everyone said it was. Like, most of my predecessors were telling me all the time, like, they were like, you're going to fail all your classes. It's going to be so overwhelming. And like, I never got to a point where I was like, KIWIN'S is way too much for me right now. Like, it was always kind of my escape from doing other stuff. I always got everything done. I maintained my grades. I got all my responsibilities done. But I never felt like I couldn't do it or something like that. Like I definitely felt like it was very doable. And like I would meet people and like they'd be like, "Oh, you're the convention chair." Like, I'm sorry. Like I was like, "Okay, it's really not that bad." But I feel like propagating the stigma about it makes it so much worse. So just as long as you're doing everything you should be, well, okay, so as long as you're doing everything you should be, but you're also doing it for you, like don't do things just because they're what your predecessor did. Like you need to be doing things that you think are going to help. And that's where like a lot of the stress was released because I wasn't doing stuff that didn't make sense anymore just to try to fill in the role and understand their thinking. I was doing stuff that I designed and it made it a lot easier and like stress-free.
I would tell myself to like pre-plan the year more. So I know that for some positions there was like a calendar that you got from your predecessor that like showed like what you do each month, but I didn't have that because the year before kind of had like a weird situation with the tech chair. So it'd be nice to like just have kind of a schedule for month by month, like what videos I wanted to release or what I was planning to do, just so I could actually think ahead and contact people in time and get the footage that I needed instead of like thinking of the video like the week that I want to release it. That was not good for my schedule.
Yeah, I think I'm with Elise on this one. Just like more thorough planning. Just like I think I did a decent amount of planning and like meeting up with like people and talking to people and committees, but I think like a little bit more detail into it and maybe like starting a little bit earlier would have definitely helped with like getting more things done throughout the term.
I agree with Dylan and Elise. I had a lot of like big long-term goals, but I never like set a specific date that I want them to release. So I kept pushing the events off. So like, oh, I could do it later because I don't think it's the time now. But then when it comes to the time, you realize it's too late because it takes a lot of time to plan and also come up with ideas too.
Oh, is it my turn? Something that I tell little me is that something that I tell little me is that like my position or that the position you're getting into, like although it's on district board, like it shouldn't be as intimidating as it seems. Like it kind of goes with leaders. It's just I just thought like, oh, being on district board, like you're gonna have to talk to a bunch of different people. You're gonna have to be like a leader to like a larger group instead of just your club. And then um like I kind of like overthought that going in, and I think that kind of like made me think that like, oh, I have to do things a certain way. I had to do things the exact same way that my predecessors had to in order to like say that I did my job. So but in the end, I kind of like although we do have to do basic things that every year has to do, like it's your job. But then again, I feel like I was able to do my own things and like kind of just make it more of like a fun thing, and yeah, less stressful. So,
So,
oh,
what, Colby?
I was gonna say the next question.
Oh, okay. You can go for it.
Sophia asked, when are applications released? That's really like up in the air.
Well, it's up to the next
Yeah.
district board. So it's whenever the governor and then the rest of the executive board decides to release applications. So shortly after they're installed.
It should be like late April, early.
Yeah,
That's about right.
like ours was pushed back a little bit because the whole not having a district governor thing, but ours was like mid-May, and so like I'm probably for you guys will be like early May, late April.
Ours was late April.
It was?
Yeah, it was.
So you guys might even get it earlier. Yeah. But there's some things you can just kind of do now. Like you don't have to wait for it to come out. Like if you're planning to become like a tech chair, like you should maybe get some of your video supplements ready now, so that way you can just have it ready. Or like if for me, I was already making a like mini awards manual like now, so that way like I didn't have to do it like right when the application got released. I was already kind of done with some of it.
Yeah, just like Colby said, for Tech Chair, I made my videos before the application was released. I made most of them before, just so I had some in the bank to use in my application.
And the application might change depending on what the next district board wants to do. Usually they're pretty similar, but also we can send, or I know I'm willing to share my application with you guys. I know most district board members usually are. So if you want to ask us for our applications, you totally can do that. Just like message us, like email us privately or something.
Yeah, just message us on Messenger.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any like position specific questions or like things you want to learn about like a specific one of us? Yeah. Did we just get a new person?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Any last questions? Comments? I guess not.
Well, if you guys don't have any questions for us, you can sign off. We'll stick around until 5, and then
yeah. And like if you come up with a question later, just like we said, our messenger. Oh, it's like a voice crack. Our messenger is like always available to like contact us at, so you can always like send us a message through there.
Alita, Michigan.
yeah. Yeah,
What
I'm
happened to
excited.
Wisconsin? What about the cheese?
Wisconsin's good, but like Michigan's like the #1 public school in the country, and like it's gorgeous and I love it, and like the food there is amazing.
But the cheese.
I know. I'm sad about it too.
Gosh, I think you're gonna really regret that decision.
Thank you. No, honestly, like I might have gone to Wisconsin, but like I applied as a microbiome major to Wisconsin, but cognitive science to Michigan, and I don't want to do microbiome that much anymore. And like Wisconsin doesn't even have cognitive science, so I was like, where's everyone else going to school? Okay, so I know Colby's maybe USC. Dylan's UCLA. What about Lee?
UCLA.
I'm either Cal Poly SLO or Northeastern University.
Nice.
I'm just waiting for money.
Natalie?
I've been having breakdowns deciding where to go because when I applied, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna get into everywhere because yeah. So I'm deciding between UC Berkeley, UCLA, or UC San Diego.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. But I'm just might be deciding to commit to UC Berkeley though, because
Ryan Sassauer loved it, San Diego.
that was my top choice. But now I don't really like going too far from home. So
Yeah, I can't relate to that, but okay.
Does everyone like me and Elisa share TEDs?
I like them so much. I kind of want to do it.
I think you should.
at least you
so
have a nice
nice.
head shape. It fits you.
It's kind of weird right now because the top is longer than the sides for no reason. Like it just grew like that on its own. So now I look kind of like
My hair's the opposite.
not-
I haven't
they're
had a
not-
haircut in so long.
They're not soft anymore. They're all kind of we cut them like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, before quarantine, we're social distancing.
Yeah, we made this trend, by the way. Like everyone else is just copying us. But yeah, it's not soft anymore. So like when people ask to touch my head, it's just not as satisfying.
Okay. Oh, is that it? 501.
All right.
So,
Contact us if you have any questions, guys. Thank you for coming.
Bye.
Guys.